Hello, in this video, I want to share with you the 8 lessons that I wish I'd known 25 years ago when I started to invest in property. So my name's Simon Zutshi. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network, author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller. And I've been investing 25 years. Now, over that time, I've done pretty well in property. I've also made a huge number of mistakes. By watching this video, hopefully you can avoid the common mistakes that many people make when investing in property. Now, most of this content has actually come from episode number 44 of my Property Magic podcast. If you haven't subscribed to that, go and check that out. It's got loads of valuable information for you. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about my journey, and I'm going to pull out these 8 lessons that I wish I'd known 25 years ago. So I bought my very first property in 1995. It was a house I wanted to live in myself. I just finished at university in Birmingham. I'd got a job as a graduate trainee at Cadbury's, and I just wanted to get my own house. And so I rented out 2 of the rooms to my friends who were still at university, and the rent that they paid me pretty much covered the costs. So I started to save some of my income, and also I had a part-time business running student nightclub events in Birmingham. It was a great fun business to do. And I had this money building up in my business bank account, so I decided to buy a second property. And what I did was I moved from the first one into my second one that was a bit closer to work at Cadbury's, but I kept the first one. And this is when I had this real light bulb moment that I want to share with you. You see, when you invest in property, you need to put some time and effort in up front, obviously, but once you've done that, you get paid for that work forever. Every month I make profit from that property. And it was a real light bulb moment. The first time I got some rent arrive in my account, and when I paid my mortgages and the cost, there was still some profit left for me. And the same thing happened the next month, and again. That's when you realize how powerful property investing can be. So I started to buy a few more properties. I did a couple of flips. I was doing some standard buy to let. And by 2001, I had enough income coming in to cover my expenses. Now, I hadn't completely replaced my income at that point, but I had enough to make the choice that I didn't really want to work. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved work. I like Cadbury's, I like the people, I love the product, but what I didn't like was getting up early in the morning. And I didn't like the fact that I couldn't go on holiday whenever I wanted. So ultimately, that's why I decided to leave work to get more freedom and control over my life. Ironically, I like getting up early now, but it's kind of because I want to get up instead of I have to get up. And I take lots and lots of holidays as well because that's something I like to do. Now, I hadn't completely replaced my income at that point. It took me another 2 years, so till 2003, when I completely replaced my income. So it took me 8 years. 8 years to replace my leaving salary at Cadbury's. And I meet a lot of people who say, oh yeah, you could learn investing all on your own. And that's what I did. And I can tell you, you can do that, but that's really the hard way. It's much smarter for you to learn from people like me who've done it, who've been there, and we can help you avoid the mistakes. And that's what this video is all about, to help you avoid some of the common mistakes. And I'm going to share with you the 8 lessons I wish I'd learned or knew when I first started investing. Now, I actually attended a property course in 2002. And by then, remember, I'd left my work, I was making money, and this leaflet came through my door saying, would you like to be a property millionaire? Now, I like to think I've got an open mind. I like to think I can always learn something. So I went along to this free of charge 2.5-hour presentation. And admittedly, I knew some of the things, but they mentioned things that I didn't know. And I thought, wow, if I could learn this in 2.5 hours at a free event, what could I learn if I spent some money and got the really good stuff from them? So I went on a 3-day course, and it was brilliant. It reinforced the things I had been doing, and a lot of property is common sense, but also I learned things I'd never even thought about. I went out, I bought properties using none of my own money, and I bought creative deals as well, all of which came from that training. So I really recommend investing in yourself to get that specialist knowledge. The course was great, but the problem was when I came off the course, after a while, my enthusiasm went down, and I found it really difficult to do things on my own. So in 2003, I went online to see if there's some sort of group, some sort of network I could join where I could learn from other successful investors. And I thought about that because at the time, I was going to breakfast networking meetings for business. So I met a great accountant, great solicitor, mortgage broker, all the people I needed for my property business. The only problem was none of them invested in property. Most of them had their own homes, but they didn't understand what I was trying to do or going through as an investor. I wanted to learn from other people like me. And so I went online, and unfortunately there was nothing. So in 2003, I started the very first networking meeting, especially for property investors in the UK. There weren't any before. I started the very first one. And I called it Property Investors Network. We're still going strong. We have 50 meetings around the country. I'm delighted. There are now hundreds of meetings all around the country, which is fantastic. You know, going to networking is really important, really powerful for you to meet like-minded people, to learn stuff the easy way rather than making mistakes, and also to build your contacts. The more people you know in property, the more successful you're going to be in property, because you can pick the phone up and you can speak to people. Anyway, so after about 10 years in 2005, I looked back at my properties and what I'd done, and I'd done lots of different things. And I realized my first property that I turned into an HMO for students in 1998 when I moved out, that was my most profitable deal, and also probably the least effort as well. So what I did was I started buying houses and converted them to HMOs, houses of multiple occupation, where you rent out multiple rooms to different people. And you know what? That was a very profitable strategy. Now, I'm a great believer in the saying, you don't know what you don't know. And in 2006, I had another step up to another level of investing. For my first 11 years, I was working with estate agents, I went to auctions, but I was doing what most investors do. And I thought I knew what I was doing because I'd been pretty successful. Then at one of my property investor network meetings, I met a guy called David. Now, David lived in Leeds and he was investing in Durham. And he shared with me how he was buying about one property a month. Now, one property a month's pretty good, but what really impressed me was he said he was buying them 30% below market value. And I thought, 30%, is that even possible? And I said to him, what's wrong with them? He said, no, nothing's wrong with them. It's all about finding people who are motivated, who need to sell their property quickly, and we go in. And we're not trying to take advantage. Instead, we go in and we try and find an ethical solution. And for these people, they're called motivated sellers. Actually, for them, the speed and certainty of the sale is more important than the amount of money they get. So that means they're flexible on the price and all the terms of the sale. So that is a real key strategy, a key lesson I want to take away, motivated sellers. And I learned that in 2006 from Dave. A couple of months later, at a different network meeting, I bumped into a mortgage broker who I knew, and I was talking to him about this. And he said, oh, did you know there's a mortgage you can get with Mortgage Express where you can buy a property, you can remortgage it the same day and get all your money out. So putting this information from Dave and Doug together meant I was able to go and buy a whole load of property in 2006 using none of my own money. In 6 months, I got an extra £1 million of property and about an extra £50,000 of income just from using this strategy, using none of my own money. And I learned that by connecting with people at network meetings. Interestingly, a few months later, I met someone else at, again, one of my network meetings, a guy called Tony, and Tony was based in London. He was sourcing deals nationwide, but he was only really interested in property deals in his area, which was London or M25. So anything outside of that area, he didn't want. And so anything in my area, he'd call me up, give me the lead for free. I didn't pay him. If I turned it into a deal, I'd then pay him a finder's fee, which was a really good deal. So that was a great thing I did in the mid-2000s. At that time, I also started buying property off-plan from developers. It seemed like a good thing to do at the time. I'll talk about this in one of my lessons. Maybe that's something I wouldn't do again. But again, I was buying no money down. We were able to get 85% mortgages, 15% gifted deposit, again, no money down. So I bought lots of properties through that. And I guess one of my mistakes was I probably didn't do enough research, if I'm perfectly honest. About that time, coming into 2007, people were saying, Simon, how come you're buying so much money with no property? And I decided to start my 12-month Property Mastermind program. I thought I'd just do one group, but it was so successful. We did a second group in the October 2007, and we now do that twice a year. We've done it ever since. The end of 2007, I sat down and wrote Property Magic for the very first time. And because I'd made some mistakes and because I'd seen other people make similar mistakes, I wanted to come up with some guidelines that people could use to avoid the mistakes and maximize the profit you make from property. So I came up with the 5 golden rules of property investing. Very quickly, they are work with motivated sellers. Secondly, buy in an area with strong rental demand. Thirdly, always buy for positive cash flow. Fourth is make sure we're buying for the long term. We can obviously make money short term, but holding for the long term really is the way to create long-term wealth. And I've seen that over the last 25 years. And finally, always make sure you have a cash buffer, some money put aside to cover unexpected expenses. So those are the 5 golden rules. If you haven't read Property Magic, you really should go and do that. And I'm sure there's some videos on YouTube that I've done about the 5 golden rules. So go and watch those. Then in 2010, again, I stepped up to another level and started doing larger developments. These were typically commercial to residential conversions. So I've converted a couple of houses, 1 into 3 flats, 1 into 7 flats. I've converted 3 care homes into flats. I've converted a former youth centre into apartments and also a pub into a guest house. So these were some of the bigger developments I did. And I'm doing those bigger deals. I was generally working with other people's money, which is something we teach our students. But I realized how difficult it is to borrow money from traditional banks. So in 2014, I set up something called Crowd Property, which is a lending platform to help SME developers to borrow money to finance their deals. And at the time of recording this, we've lent well over £80 million. We've helped fund over 1,000 property purchases, and it's just growing and growing. So look, I'm just telling you this to let you know I've done a lot in property, but I don't claim to have all the answers. I've made lots of mistakes. And if I'm honest, my biggest regret over all that time is treating my investing like a hobby instead of a business. And my strong message to you would be, you really need to treat this like a business. So now let me go through my 8 lessons, things I wish I'd known when I started to invest. And if I'd had this knowledge then and applied it, I would be much further on than I am now. And I hope you can use these lessons again to further your property investing success. So lesson number 1, and this was really when I bought a lot of off-plan property, is, you know what? Don't buy apartments, buy houses instead. Why do I say that? Well, generally, I think houses I have seen have had better capital appreciation over the time I've owned property instead of apartments. And also, you know, apartments are great to rent out to people, but most people who want to buy a property, they really want to go into a house. So there's not such a strong demand for people wanting to buy apartments. This is outside of London, of course. I'm talking about the rest of the country. So I think don't buy apartments. And also, you've got to pay a service charge to the freeholder, and the freeholder controls the external appearance of the building. You have no say on that. So that's why I don't really like buying apartments. Rule number 2, or lesson number 2, is always do your due diligence. Some of the property deals that I've bought in the past, I bought them maybe for the wrong reasons, because there were no money down, or even I got paid to buy a property, and I maybe didn't do as much research about the area and the rental demand as I probably should. If I had my time again, some of those properties I would not buy. It's because I broke my own 5 golden rules, because I didn't have the golden rules then. So follow the 5 golden rules, and that will really help you minimize the risks. The next lesson is try and learn from other people that have done this rather than learn yourself. As I said earlier, it took me 8 years to replace my income. But interestingly, one of my friends, a guy called Greg Reed, who started at Cadbury's a year before me in 1994, he stayed there for 20 years, worked his way right up to the top of the corporate ladder. And when Greg took voluntary redundancy from Cadbury's, he came to me because he knew I'd left Cadbury's because of my property and said, hey Simon, can you help me? So he came on my mastermind program, and what I did in 8 years, i.e. replace my income, he did in 8 months. Just think about that. Took me 8 years, took him 8 months, because he was able to follow my step-by-step plan, and he didn't have to work it out all himself. Now, he had some property knowledge before. He'd dabbled in property in the mid-2000s, as many of us did. And by the way, Greg's leaving salary after 20 years at Cadbury was much more than my leaving salary, and he did it in 8 months instead of 8 years. So learn from other people rather than trying to do it yourself. Number 4, lesson number 4 is get really good at finding great deals. A lot of people think, oh, I can't invest in property because I don't have enough money. The reality is everybody runs out of their own money at some point. But if you get really good at finding great deals, you will always be able to find people who might want to joint venture with you, or maybe lend you the money, or you could sell those deals to other people to give you deposits for you to then buy the properties you want to keep. So the most important thing I think you can learn as a property investor is how to find really good deals. Sometimes people say, oh, there are no deals in my area. Guess what? That's just your belief. If that's what you believe, well, you're probably right. You probably won't find deals. But believe me, there are other people finding deals in your area right now. You just need to learn how to do that. Lesson number 5 is network, network, network. You know what? When I was younger, I was actually quite shy. And when I first started going to business network meetings in the early 2000s, when I left Cadbury's, I was really shy. I had to force myself to go to networking. When I got there, I found people quite friendly and open and everything, but I just didn't like it at all. But I've gained so much from the people who I've met at network meetings, the contacts I've gained, the experience talking to other people, learning all about motivated sellers. That wouldn't have happened for me if I was doing it on my own and I hadn't gone to network meetings. So network, 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 one of the most important things you could do. Obviously, we have the Property Investors Network. There's a link in the description. Just go to pinmeeting.co.uk. There are meetings all over the country. At the time of filming this, they're virtual, but soon we're going to go back to physical when we can. And if you've never been to a Property Investors Network meeting, it's £20 to attend. You get massive high value from it. There's no big sales pitches. We don't do that. But if you've never been, in the description, there's a voucher code you can use to go to your very first meeting completely free as my guest. And I encourage you to come along and just check it out for yourself to see what you think. Rule number 6, or lesson number 6 rather, is that you should treat your investing like a business, not a hobby. That's my biggest regret. Not focusing, not spending more time doing it, just dabbling. While I was at work, I was busy. And then, to be honest, once I'd left Cadbury's, I was kind of fairly comfortable. And I probably didn't put in as much effort as I could have done. And I could be so much further beyond if I'd done that. Lesson number 7 is pick your joint venture partners very, very carefully. I've done a number of joint ventures. Some have been fantastic. Some have not worked out as well as they should. And that's my responsibility. You've got to take responsibility for everything that happens. You've got to make sure that your JV partners are fit for purpose. Can they do what they're supposed to do as their part of the deal? And also you need to have regular meetings with them. Don't let them just get on with it. You've got to have regular meetings, keep on top of things to make sure everything is progressing as it should do. It's really important. You're in this together. If you have problems, you need to work through the problems together to get them resolved. And then lesson number 8 is just get on with it and do this now. Don't delay. Investing in property is the best use of your time, and you'll be rewarded for the time and effort you put in forever. If you buy a property and you know what you're doing, it's going to give you income every single month for the rest of your life as long as you own it, and a capital growth as well. It's the very best thing you can do. You don't need to do property full-time. Our most successful students are people who've got busy jobs or they're running their own business and they've only got a small amount of time to invest. But because of that, they're focused on what they do in that time. They want to get great results. They educate themselves, they take action, and they get great results. So I really would encourage you to just get on with it. And particularly as I'm filming this video right now, we're coming into the end of 2020 and into 2021. We expect the property markets are going to come down. One of the best times to buy property. Get educated, get out there and do it now. Now I do hope you like this video. If you have, please smash the like button. Put some comments in. What did you like best in the comment thing? Make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. If you subscribe, you get a notification every time I bring out a new training video. Also, check out the Property Magic podcast. It's a completely free resource. There's over 12 hours of content there. I share from my book, Property Magic, and also from my mastermind program. It's completely free. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, all the major podcast platforms. It's called the Property Magic Podcast. Subscribe to that and also download those. And finally, if you've never been to a PIN meeting, come along to a PIN meeting and check it out yourself. There's a link in the description. Just click on pinmeeting.co.uk and use the voucher code that's there. You come to your very first PIN meeting as my guest. If you've been before, you know what it's like, and we hope to see you at a meeting very, very soon. So as ever, I hope this has been useful for you. Make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, and I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.